I hope the Easter Bunny filled your basket with healthy treats. Ha. I'm not sure they're healthy, but. So I had a really long topic for today, and then I cut it back a little bit. And what we're going to do today is approach the subject of some traditional paths to enlightenment, as well as some necessary prerequisites, no matter which path is chosen. As I mentioned last week in our exploration of Advaita Vedanta, many comments have been made by me about how mistaken we are relative to all that we have learned throughout our lives that we believe in and live by, without questioning much of it. I've also made some statements about how things really are that most of us are unaware of. Now, I do not expect that everyone accepts everything as presented, especially since we all grew up learning what we learned. And thinking that what we learned is gospel, because after all, our parents and teachers wouldn't teach us anything that wasn't true, except when it comes to the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus. Okay, and that whole thing about Christopher Columbus discovering America. And I guess Sir Isaac Newton discovering gravity because of an apple. And speaking of apples, that the forbidden fruit was in fact an apple, because it probably wasn't. It was never really specified. It was probably a fig. And penguins mating for life, but we're actually never told that it's usually not with the same partner. Or that swimming within an hour of eating causes cramps, which it doesn't. Now, I could go on and on and on for the next 25 minutes about the exceptions to the truth, but I'll never get to today's lesson. So maybe what I've been teaching is more truthful than not. If that's the case, what can we do to appreciate and fully accept these esoteric teachings? What options are available to gain direct experience of that real self, that higher self I'm always talking about? It's no use saying that the higher self is unlimited and eternally blissful when we are convinced by years of experience that we are limited. It's like talking about psychosomatic illnesses. The patient cannot just be told that their problems are psychosomatic and then expect immediate and full resolution just from the telling. No, the patient has to do something. They have to change their thinking and hence change their mind. Yet, whether it is apparent that our problems come from the way we think or are the result of something that just seemed to come out of nowhere, what I've been teaching during the past year says that we are all responsible for how we respond to what happens to us. None of what happens to us is accidental, and none of it is just physical. None of it. Even though it is the physical body that feels the brunt of any disruption. And yes, there is emotional upset that accompanies any great interruption, but the physical body is the emotional body, and the emotional body is the physical body. So it goes back to how we think. We need to become more aware of the mind, in particular the unconscious mind. Remember, the mind controls the body, not the other way around. Now, regardless of our physical well-being or our state of health, our ultimate end aim is enlightenment or self-realization, which is where we are actually going to go today with today's topic. Now, we don't know what our individual path will bring or look like, but we're fairly certain that enlightenment brings an end to all problems. Each of our paths is unique, as each of us has to deal with our own level of ignorance and delusion with respect to who we are. I've been saying that we are already enlightened, but that means very little, as we all feel deeply entrenched in the illusion. This life that is filled with problems and challenges, and for the rare few, opportunities and blessings. The fact that you tune into this type of material should be an indicator of who you are. All of us who are connected to this type of information are dealing with our seeming limitations at an individual level on our way to ascertaining the truth. Spiritual paths have their place, and it is up to us to find the one that works for us. This is a way of gaining direct experience of our real self. Traditionally, there are 3 stages of movement from our current state of ignorance to that of enlightenment, no matter the path you're on. The first stage is hearing the truth in the first place, but hearing it from a sage or an enlightened one, or reading from a highly resonating spiritual book, such as the Upanishads or the Vedas or the Bhagavad Gita or Course in Miracles or any of Dr. David Hawkins' works, or Disappearance of the Universe, or from what I'm drawing from now, Advaita Vedanta. And there are many more. The step of exposing yourself to a high level of truth is called Shravana. The second stage is reflecting upon what has been heard or read, as it will not be understood with just one introduction to it. It needs to be listened to or read again and again and again for the rest of our lives. This is the stage of manana, not manana, but manana. The third stage is meditating upon the essence of what has been intellectually understood until the knowledge of those teachings becomes absorbed fully by our entire being. This is called nidhyasana. Nidhyasana has nothing to do with boat diddling. Okay? That was a joke. So when we are introduced to something that is startling or amazing, such that we deem it to be potentially life-changing, and it turns on something inside of us like a bright light, but at the same time, we can't seem to fully grasp the magnitude or importance of what we've just experienced, as though the light was turned on inside, but it's barely shining. Thus it can be with knowledge. We may receive knowledge, but remain ignorant of it until all doubts and habitual ways of thinking have been removed. Light dispels darkness, and knowledge dispels ignorance. But if other obstacles exist, such as doubt, skepticism, negativity, and unforgiving heart, remember that hearing the truth, or Shravana, turns on the light, but reflection on the truth, manana, and meditating on the essence of the truth, nidhyasana, are required in order to remove all obstacles on the path towards enlightenment. Now, there are requirements and prerequisites. And before I get into that, I'm going to give you a quote from Will Rogers. Even if you are on the right track, you will get run over if you just sit there. Yeah, I'm on the right track, but it's getting nice outside, and I think I'll just put this aside, all this stuff aside, until October, when it gets colder. On this path towards self-realization, there are steps that need to be taken. Hey, let's face it. If any one of us decided we wanted to be the best at what we do, we would agree that the amount of effort, work, time, sweat, equity, and whatnot that would need to go into our life pursuit would be sizable, and by most measures, daunting to most people, unfathomable by most. We know now that a minimum of 10,000 hours is the minimum magic amount of time required to master anything. The same holds true with this topic. Self-realization and enlightenment might be a bit higher on the scale of importance than becoming the next Tom Brady or Aretha Franklin or Tiger Woods or Pavarotti or Einstein or anyone else admired and revered. But these people put in the time necessary to learn and then relearn, and then step outside of their comfort zone by learning a different technique or method than the one that came naturally to them. Then practicing and practicing and practicing when they really wanted to be outside in the warm temperatures, enjoying the sun, the sand, the water like everybody else was. They stayed focused and honed in on their objective. Perhaps they did it alone, perhaps they did it with others in a team setting. Either way, they committed themselves to delve into the process. Many of them because they had a passion to go further than anyone else, or they wanted to know the truth. or they wanted to break barriers, or they had a desire to understand something at the deepest level. They got hooked on the journey. Shankara, an 8th century mystic who brought Advaita to prominence, describes 4 qualities that a seeker must have. And that's how he presented it, 4 qualities. But the 3rd quality has 6 of its own qualities, making it a total of 9 qualities. The first of the 4 is discrimination, or viveka, the ability to differentiate the real from the unreal, truth from non-truth, permanent from transient. The second is detachment, or dispassion, vairagya, not Viagra, but vairagya. This means practicing non-attachment, indifference to the outcome, indifference to the pleasures of success and the disappointments of failure. The fourth is the desire to achieve enlightenment above and beyond anything else. Think of Tom Brady's commitment to football, even if you're not into that game. The guy is amazing and has worked those 3 traits I just mentioned, and 5 of the 6 I'm about to mention next. So the 3rd trait, which I mentioned, contains 6 of its own traits. These are them. The first one is mental discipline, or self-control, shama. The second one is control of the senses, dhamma. The third one is desisting from sensual enjoyment, uparade. This is usually the showstopper. No one wants to give up sex. And Tom didn't give up this one. The fourth one is patience, titiksha. This spiritual journey that we are on may take a very, very long time. We need patience. We also need the next one, which is trusting in the teachings that you're taught until knowledge arises from within you and you no longer need outside sources to gain wisdom. This is called shraddha. The last one is deep meditation, and when not meditating, contemplation, samadhana. So, deep meditation. We all know what meditation is. It's usually passive. We go off by ourselves, we assume a position, we close our eyes, we go inside. As we practice, we are able to go deeper and deeper. But when we come out of meditation, what do most people do? The same old, same old. But in this practice, they're saying deep meditation, and when not meditating, contemplation. What's contemplation mean? Never again does your mind wander. It's contemplating. It's focusing in. Do you know what Tom Brady did the day after he won the Super Bowl a month and a half ago? Before 7 a.m., he called his coach up and he said, "Coach, I think we can do this again next year." And his coach said, "Would you give me a break? Relax and enjoy this." But that's Brady. He's focused in. He's laser focused. And in anything we get into at a very, very deep level, it's a good idea to get focused in, especially on a spiritual journey. Meditation, think of Dr. David Hawkins. He meditated for, 8, 9, 10, 11 years straight, 18 hours a day. And when he stopped meditating, he was always in contemplation. And he spoke about this at great length. Always in the presence of the divine, because he never had the vrittis. He never had mind chatter. He honed in, and he actually practiced not allowing himself to ever let his mind wander. And he was if you've ever seen him speak, he's one of the happiest people. He will be in the midst of a lecture and all of a sudden break out in laughter because something humorous appealed to him. And people in the audience would start laughing after they got to know this guy and realized this guy's a genius. They'd start laughing with him, having no idea why they're laughing, because they had no idea why he's laughing. So clearly, to pursue this avenue of study, one has to want to learn about the real self. Since the ego is the main obstacle and the one way we know best, it's like trying to leave home, the only home we've ever had or known, because someone is telling us that there's another way, another home, our real home. We're not too sure we should be listening to this new information. It's scary. Yet we already know that what we know and the way we act are not conducive to peace or living life to its fullest. What we're doing on this planet is the same thing we've always done, and that is following the ego, usually someone else's, because most of us are followers. So traits like self-restraint, discipline, mastery of the senses, stick-to-itiveness, patience, focus, detachment, and having faith that we are on the right track are all necessary skill sets for any endeavor, for anyone, whether it be for a spiritual journey or as an athlete, a musician, an artist, a playwright, you name it. Now, there are many methods and paths to the truth. There are the different religions and philosophies of the world, and in the East, some of the more well-known paths are mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita and go by the names of Bhakti, Karma, Jnana, Hatha, Raja, and Kundalini. So I'll say that again. They go by the name of Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Hatha Yoga, Raja Yoga, and Kundalini Yoga. And before we get into any of these particular ways, let me say that yoga on the other side of the planet is thought of very differently than it is here in the West. The different types of yoga are actually different types of philosophies on the other side of the planet. They may have physical movements that can be performed by the practitioners of that philosophy, but not all practitioners practice those movements that we call poses or asanas. They do, however, practice the philosophy associated with their particular practice of yoga. For instance, Mother Teresa on this side of the planet was considered saintly. On the other side of the planet, she was considered a bhakti and karma yogini. I am a yogi. She was a yogini. Yogini is feminine. Yogi is masculine. I am a yogi practicing hatha and jnana yoga. She was a yogini practicing bhakti and karma yoga. She actually practiced different types of yoga every day, and probably not once did she ever strike a pose. Yoga to her was a way of life. We're going to learn the two paths that Mother Teresa practiced, plus another path called Jnana Yoga. But I'm going to save that for the next time. Otherwise, this would be way long. In the meantime, get outside today and enjoy the warmer weather. It's going to be nice out. See you next time. Have a great day.